Why Gen Z doesn't wanna work. Originally, this video was titled Why Gen Z Hates the 40-Hour Work Week, which I do, so let's check this out.
Take a look at this picture. It's the Ford assembly line in 1913. These workers, lined up in rows, placing nuts and bolts on wheels, were working 12 hours a day. 12 hours a day.
Yeah, this was like before the 40-hour workday rule.
Standing in the same spot, repeating
So
the
outdated.
same monotonous task. Who wouldn't lose their mind doing that? Well, it turns out a lot of them actually did. Before 1926, reports of Ford assembly line workers getting injured and, in the most severe cases, dying were not uncommon. Henry Ford needed a way to keep his workers productive without killing them. After all, dead people can't build cars. So that year, he introduced the 40-hour work week, an 8 hours a day, 5 days a week schedule designed to give his—
But why 5 days a week? Why not make it? Why not make it even somehow? Why not 4 days working, 3 days non-working? Or like, come on, man! I hate it so much.
Time to recover and keep.
I guess because the way we are as humans, we would probably hate it anyway. In any which way it was created,
faculties
it
on
would
the job.
be created.
For
I
a
guess.
century, the 40-hour work week has remained the norm in many developed countries across the globe. All based on the idea of a single CEO of a car manufacturing company. And even though technology has continued
Same with the school system, man. So
to make
outdated.
our work ever more efficient, we've only added more hours. To let the 40-hour work week persist in the present day is a
tons of people working 48 hours.
Recipe for angry
50,
workers,
60.
and for business owners, less profit. Yes, that's right. Not more profit, less. So why are we still following this outdated protocol? Why aren't we working 30 or even 20 hours a week like some economists predicted over a century ago? And what are the better alternatives we need to start?
I think it's too late and we're too deep in it. And it's way too hard to like just change this.
Establishing.
Let's see what it says.
Industrial Revolution. The end of many ancient problems, but the start of just about every modern one. Around 1870, at the dawn of the Second Industrial Revolution, a new household standard was growing. One income, one homemaker. We've all heard the story before. The husband goes into the office for 8 hours while the wife stays home and cooks.
The office? You mean the factory? For 12 hours.
Cleans and runs other necessary errands to keep everything running like a well-oiled machine. The 40-hour workweek was established during a time when this was the norm, but the world we live in today follows a much different standard. Among employed U.S. adults aged 25 to 64 who are married, the total amount of paid work between both partners amounts to 83 hours. That leaves 12 hours per week for caregiving and only 7 hours for housework, which women still do the majority of. Now, common sense would tell you that this surge in paid
I will
work—
never care if my wife or girlfriend, whatever, cleans for me or cooks for me. I can do it all of that for myself. I don't care. Okay? No traditional shit with me. I don't care.
Married couples would result in an economy where everyone
Just
has
loyalty.
more than enough money to have their basic needs met. But that has been anything but the case. Families now contribute far more paid labor than the households the 40-hour workweek was originally designed around. Yet instead of translating into a ton of more leisure, much of the financial advantage of that second income has been offset by rising costs in housing.
Yep, I remember seeing like these kinds of charts from like 50, 60 years ago when, you know, how much you get paid and your living expenses, you know, not being too far. And people would actually get paid more, and, you know, the business owners weren't that high in the profits, but then eventually, you know, the graphs start, you know, drastically dividing themselves, drastically one going up and the other one being stagnant, as in our salaries being stagnant and everything going up, expenses, food, everything, right? Consumer goods, anyway. And when it comes to the profits for businessmen, skyrocketing.
Healthcare, and education. This seems totally backwards. If we're producing more than ever before, and families are putting in more paid work than when the 40-hour work week was built around, shouldn't we have eventually gotten to the point where we needed to work less? Well, there was actually a time when the United States—
Doesn't this show you that, you know, the world is run by rich people and they just do how they wanted to do so they can make more profit and make as less people as possible be able to be, you know, rich eventually in the future, to be able to, you know, become their competition?
It's tried to make that happen.
This is just
in
me
1933,
being, you know,
Senator Hugo Black and Representative William Connery introduced the Black Connery Bill, proposing a mandated 30-hour work week to combat Great Depression-era unemployment. The Senate passed Black's 30-hour workweek bill 53 to 30 in a bipartisan vote. Supporters claimed it would create 6 million jobs. It was expected to pass the House, and Secretary of Labor Francis Perkins was publicly supportive. But business leaders were not. According to historian Benjamin Honeycutt in his book Work Without
What did I say?
End, instead of looking at the increase in leisure as inevitable or as potentially beneficial, they feared that if workers got a taste of a 30-hour work week, they would never want to go back and the law would become permanent. The wealthiest
Why is that bad? Fucking pieces
business
of shit.
owners held emergency meetings in Chicago and Philadelphia, and Perkins, who also
Beautiful.
supported a federal minimum wage, was flooded with messages of opposition. This eventually led to President Roosevelt changing his mind about the proposed bill, and support from others for the 30-hour work week collapsed. Roosevelt was more interested in building out a recovery plan using public works like dams, bridges, hospitals, and schools to supply employment, stabilize buying power, and help revive the economy. So what did he do? He basically said, hey guys, I know you don't want a federally mandated 30-hour work week, so let's compromise. That compromise eventually became the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, which banned most child labor, established a federal minimum wage, and made 40 hours the national benchmark. Now here's what's really fascinating. 40 hours isn't even a scientifically optimal number. Research consistently shows that humans can maintain 3 to 4 hours of cognitive focus.
There we go. I was about to say that. I've seen tons of research saying that, studying for more than 4 hours a day is a lot. And also nonstop for 4 hours, like actually not pausing, not really that realistic. There's a few exceptions of people that are actually, obsessed with what they're studying, or they've been studying for much longer. They're like scientists, maybe. That's their job, like studying stuff.
After that, our cognitive faculties start getting progressively worse.
And
So
we're supposed to be working 8 hours a day.
how did this arbitrary number stay unquestioned for so damn long? The answer has everything to do with what is called the leisure scare. Finding a job that actually respects your time and aligns with the impact you want to make can feel daunting right now. Whether it's ghost jobs or 50+ hours a week, it's as if these companies hate the idea of you having a life outside work.
This is probably
The dominant
some ad.
cultural narrative of work in America revolves around the Puritan or Protestant work ethic. Emerging from the teachings of reformers such as Martin Luther and John Calvin, this philosophy held that work was a moral and even spiritual obligation. Labor was seen as a way of honoring God, while discipline, diligence, and careful stewardship.
This is why I don't actually believe in any religion. It's not actually the reason, but, motivating people into working, not a bad thing, to keep a society running. I get the idea, but goddamn manipulating people into working, even if, let's say, they physically cannot anymore. And just extending the work week just because of that, just because of God and religion. Come on, man, you're fucking evil, dude. But we're giving you purpose, giving you all of this. Yeah, I think that's like, think of humanity like thousands of years in the past. If you're not actually, functionable, and if you're not, actually useful to the tribe, why would they take care of you? Why? Why would they? If you're a young kid, eventually you'll be old enough, still a child by modern standards, but back then you'd be old enough to go out and, get fruits or hunt. Hence why, if we need to, maintain a society, people need to work, okay? Not everybody can just not work. How are we going to maintain society? How are we going to fucking upkeep everything and develop new stuff? But using religion to manipulate
One's
people,
earning were viewed as a virtuous way of living. These beliefs were especially influential among the Puritans who settled in North America.
Oh, but this guy needed that water badly.
And helped shape early American attitudes towards work. In the early 20th century, sociologist Max Weber argued that this cultural mindset played a major role in the rise of modern capitalism. So rather than treating work as something to minimize, Protestant societies came to regard hard work as a virtue in itself. And when economists started to predict a future
this is a trend these days as well,
which Americans could no longer exercise this virtue with as many hours in a day, business owners and political scientists started to panic. Most famously, in 1930, British economist John Maynard Keynes gave a lecture in Madrid about the future of work. John Keynes believed that by 2030, humanity's greatest challenge would no longer be producing enough wealth, but figuring out how to spend an abundance of free time. Man, if only. Assuming governments avoided...
If business owners weren't that evil, maybe we would be in that situation. That's not the case.
Major policy failures, he predicted that living standards in the West would rise to at least 4 times their 1930 level within a century. With technological progress driving extraordinary gains in productivity, Keynes expected the average person to need only about 15 hours of work each week to maintain a comfortable standard of living. But once we got to 1960,
now we need to work 80 hours a week to barely survive.
The optimism about a future filled with leisure began to give way to unease. Some scholars started wondering whether people would know what to do with so much unstructured time. Pulitzer Prize-winning political scientist Sebastian de Grazia expressed that concern in an interview with the Associated Press, warning, quote, "There is reason to fear that free time, forced free time, will bring on the restless tick of boredom, idleness, immorality, and increased personal violence." A decade later, the U.S. Interior
I think that's true to a certain degree. Like, we see what happens in modern societies, in modern countries, first world countries, where a lot of issues don't exist like third world countries, and the type of stuff political that is being pushed there and what's happening. You know, like, for example, there's a group of people out there right now that are calling PDF files minor attracted people, and they're saying that that's normal. That only happens and can be like normalized when people don't have any problems at work. No, in life, no work, nothing better to do. Like, shut the fuck up.
Department echoed a similar
What are you
sentiment,
saying?
stating in a 1974 report that leisure, thought by many to be the epitome of paradise, may well become the most perplexing problem of the future. That was the leisure scare, the mid-20th century anxiety that automation would give Americans too much free time. As I was doing this research, I kept wondering why. Like, what's the
Too much free time, but free time without money is basically nothing as an adult.
real reason why political scientists and economists would be scared if people had more free time? You can disagree with me here, but I believe they subconsciously knew deep down that more free time would lead to Americans becoming more than just consumers. And it turns out some economists and sociologists thought the same thing. In her book, The Overspent American, Julia B. Shore writes about the insidious cycle of work and spend in America. Here's what it looks like. Businesses continue producing an endless stream of goods that depend on people buying them. Advertising fuels demand by promising that each new purchase will bring greater satisfaction or fulfillment. Many households take on debt to afford things that quickly become ordinary, leaving them with larger monthly payments and a greater need to keep working. As the excitement of each purchase fades, another product promises to fill the gap, and the cycle begins all over again. Additionally,
this is what you call a modern mental illness. I haven't gone shopping for clothing, and my parents are like, they're mad at me at this point. I haven't gone shopping for clothing for over like a year, I think. I've bought shoes like 8 months ago. That's it. I don't have enough shirts, bro. I am planning to go shopping this weekend because I haven't bought clothing for this for a long time. I'm saving up so much money. Buying up, like, I believe that if you want to be actually happy, you can't be the person who feels the need to have more in life in order to be happy. Like, this is my philosophy, but if you feel like you need more, you'll never be happy. But at the same time, that mentality of ours as humans led us to, living at the 21st century, having electricity and everything else we, take for granted these days. Because humans want more, we develop more. But I'm specifically talking about leisure now.
Shore writes, many potentially satisfying leisure skills are off limits because they take too much time. Participating in community theater, seriously taking up a sport or a musical instrument.
Yeah! Go hike! Get a dog! I mean, that's not cheap, but get a dog and go hike every morning before your job. That's cold. Trust me, it's going to give you way better, not just health, but it's going to give you way better memories. It's going to make you much happier than buying something new and going in debt every single month.
Or getting involved with a church or community.
I know from experience.
This is something I touched upon in my video about why Gen Z doesn't have any hobbies. There is a serious time commitment required to actually become skillful in a certain hobby or spend enough time around people doing something in order to
Also, hobbies have disappeared these days. Every single video I see on YouTube is somehow how to monetize your freaking life. Shut up! Stop ruining people's lives. We need to have social lives as well. Stop making everything like just make money for us, okay? Yeah, we live in that type of society these days, okay? Everybody's struggling, but shut up. Also, all of these videos about talking about money and YouTube and all of this, they're all just recycled bullshit of the same information and just selling you courses. That's all. Okay, I'm going
relationships
off.
with them. Filling every ounce of free time with a consumerist activity is the easiest, most frictionless way to make sure you are never bored, which a lot of us are subconsciously afraid to do, partly because that's what this Protestant culture ingrained into our thinking, but
luckily I'm not religious, but also I didn't grow up in Protestant culture or Catholic culture. I grew up in what was the not Protestant, not Catholic, Orthodox.
Also partly because
my
being
parents
alone
are
with yourself and facing the looming certainty that you actually have no idea who you are or what you want to do outside of work is terrifying. So what do we do to hide from this fact? We talk about leisure as a waste of time.
Stop wasting time!
This is what I'm saying.
Kills. That's how you'll get paid.
We promote hustling 24/7.
Let me tell you what.
I mean, I guess you can say that's what I'm doing right now. I'm filming myself watching videos. I usually watch videos. That's my leisure time. But still, this is not hustling. This is not hard for me. I'm recording my face and speaking while watching a video. I usually speak. I live alone, and I still usually speak while watching videos.
For yourself.
Because I'm a weirdo.
No Easter.
And I just
There's none of that.
said, oh, let's record
We make
myself.
ridiculous claims like this.
Slaves worked all the hours they were awake for their entire lives. In American history, in Egyptian history, in the rest of the world that had slaves, which is most of the world at some given point. I think, like, if they can do it, so can I.
And all a lot of Gen Z
God
can do
damn.
right now is just roll
I was not expecting that to end there.
their eyes at this type of shit, because by now,
It's one thing when you're working like a slave for your own business and you're getting something out of it, or you might get something out of it. It's not, you can't
we
compare
understand
that shit.
how insane it is to be living in a system like this. To have basic tasks done so quickly in a modern office setting that most people just sit around for several hours towards the end of the day, but to have your boss still insist you need to be there for that many hours because it
Yeah, that's not slavery. You can leave.
looks good on a timesheet is absurd. According to Microsoft's 2024 Work Trend Index, the average knowledge worker now spends 60% of their time communicating through meetings.
Wait, what's knowledge worker? With the balance of work hours spent communicating, 68% of people say they don't have enough uninterrupted focus time during the workday. Yeah, I hear a lot of people
Email and
complaining about like these chats and team meetings that are mostly useless.
chat, and only 40% creating, with 68% saying they don't have enough uninterrupted focus to do meaningful work. To think we will all become immoral, ill-behaved degenerates if we have more leisure time is statistically false, and to prove it, we can now propose what the future could
Listen,
be.
I don't trust most statistics. I just don't. A lot of them are very biased. But I do think, to a certain point, people do become a little bit more degenerate. They start inventing issues if there's no actual issues. And that's going to be, you know, if one day the whole world is like a first world country, that's the shit we're going to be dealing with.
Look like if we break away from this flawed system. Imagine if you were able to design your own schedule with certain restrictions that your organization sets. That's the idea of flex time, a flexible hour schedule where employees choose their start and end times, work remotely, or structure their days around their own peak performance hours rather than arbitrary organizational norms.
Like you gotta work 8 hours a day. You choose how many hours, which hours you're gonna be. It might be for maybe 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours later in the evening, or maybe you split it up in 3 hours.
Everyone has different hours during the day when they work best, and everyone has different responsibilities outside of work that take place at different points during the day.
Yeah,
flex time allows them the freedom.
Like if I go to if I have a job from 9 to 5, what if I have a dentist appointment at 3? And I've had jobs where they didn't allow me to go. I was like, fuck you guys. So I got another job.
That leads to the employee making their best contribution, making both them and their employer happier. Research consistently links flexible
There's no way that woman is actually getting shit done. Sorry.
scheduling to higher engagement, lower absenteeism, and improved retention. However, I will say that flex time can cause coordination issues, and in jobs that require mutual decision-making and collaboration, this type of system could get very bad very quick. So that is why in most cases, the best option is to just simply reduce hours to a 32-hour work week. A 32-hour work week involves the same 8-hour-a-day structure, but with an entire day taken out of it. So
Yeah, I remember seeing Denmark trying something with this. Was it Denmark or some other country? I think it was Denmark. But it was like, I don't know if they're still doing it or if it was just a test, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I just don't think it's realistic, man.
Get a 3-day weekend
and the wages would stay the same. I don't know.
instead of just 2. And
This would just motivate people like business owners to like buy into AI even more.
evidence for the effectiveness of something like this is overwhelming. Across 245 organizations that adopted a 32-hour, 4-day schedule without reducing pay, companies saw higher profits, lower employee turnover, and significant improvements in burnout, stress, anxiety, and overall physical and mental well-being. Microsoft Japan observed
Why isn't everybody doing this?
results, reporting a 40% jump in productivity after moving roughly 2,300 employees to a 4-day work week with no reduction in salary. Another anecdote comes from Iceland. Iceland moved a significant
Oh yeah, Iceland. I remember hearing about this.
portion of its entire workforce into shortened week pilots and found that productivity and service provision either maintained or improved. Roughly 86% of Iceland's working population has since either moved
I've got a feeling that, let's say this happens in the whole world now, the norm in the whole world is like now a 4-hour, 4-day work week, right? Eventually, newer generations will see that as the norm, as now we see 40-hour work weeks or 5 days a week, right? And they'll like start being the same as us. Maybe not. Maybe to a lesser degree. Probably. I don't know. This is like how the human psyche
shorter
works,
hours
you know?
or gain the right to do so. These findings suggest that shorter work weeks succeed because they strip away much of the unnecessary busy work that consumes the modern.
So if I become a big content creator one day, I should actually like somehow find a way to make for my editor, make it as short as possible, like a 4-day work week. Or maybe they would have to edit every day, but it would be like 2 hours of editing every day. That's it. So it's not a lot. It's like 2 times 7. That's like 14 hours of editing. I mean, at that point, they can just choose when they want to edit. They can maybe edit everything in 2 days.
Workday while
That
giving
would be
employees
great.
enough time to recover, think more clearly, and ultimately produce higher quality work. But I think that in America, it would take more than just a change in sheer hours employees work per week to start feeling the difference of less work. We would have to entirely restructure the way our culture views work. We would have to see leisure as a necessary condition of
That's probably very close to what I was trying to say, but with new generation.
culture rather than a barrier to it. And that's exactly what Josef Pieper argues in his book.
Yo, bro,
Leisure,
this
the
guy
Basis
reads
of
so
Culture.
much.
In
I'm
his
jealous.
book, Pieper posits that the real
I'm jealous. Meanwhile, I can read everything. I'm too lazy to read. I've got
purpose
shit to
of
do.
work is leisure. If he
Yeah.
were alive today, Pieper would believe that our total work culture, that is working just to work more and working even when we're not working through some other devices, is a form of spiritual death. He believed that this whole idea in our culture that knowledge and wisdom can only be gained through taxing hard work is false. He writes, "The inmost significance of the exaggerated value which is set upon hard work appears to be this. Man seems to mistrust everything that is effortless. He can only enjoy, with a good conscience, what he has acquired with toil and trouble. He refused to have anything as
Bro, I think YouTube is a proof enough that you can actually learn stuff and have fun with it. Okay, I've learned way more from YouTube than I have sitting in classes. Okay, but intentionally choosing stuff that I'm interested in learning.
Instead, Pieper thinks that
For example, the United States. I love the United States. I've said it many times. I wish I lived there. So I've learned a lot about U.S. culture, about U.S. politics. I still watch a lot. I'm very informed. U.S. geography, don't get me fucking started. I know more U.S. geography than the average person living in the average American. But
it is
what it is.
precisely in those moments of leisure that we connect to the highest forms of knowledge and go on to produce some of our best cultural works. In other words, when we give our minds the space to wander, to ponder, to be bored, that is when we course correct to make sure we're heading towards a future that is
Also, how many people have told you I've gotten the best ideas when I was bored and like in the shower? Something to think about.
beneficial for the most amount of people. Then he supports an idea I brought up earlier. Elites and business owners would be terrified to lessen working hours because then human beings would have the opportunity to actualize their own unique interests.
That's what I said at the beginning. I'm proud of Cole.
In his most quoted line, he states, "Leisure is only possible when we are at one with ourselves."
We need slaves. We need people to work for us. We need people to be demotivated. We need people to be hopeless and only work for us and barely be able to survive and not be able to actualize all of their ideas. We don't need more competition. We need to dominate our industry and destroy everything else. Said by every single company and business owner.
We tend to overwork as a
Capitalism.
means of self-escape.
I'm not a communist. I'm just saying it's not a perfect, it's not a perfect world in any
way
regard.
of trying to justify our existence.
I'm not. I hate
So,
communists.
like most modern problems, the problem of having an unnecessary 40-hour work
And
week
socialism,
still
fuck
persists because the people in power are projecting their fear of having no identity outside of their work onto the general populace. What I love about Gen Z is how much we rebuke the outdated ideas of the old world that are leading to the immense inequality we're seeing.
And tons of people make us one of the worst generations because of that. And probably every single new generation is going to do that.
Right now. And I truly believe the more that we start to raise awareness on just how broken the work culture is, the more motivated we will be to take action and start implementing the changes we want to see.
Oh, I don't
Before
know
you go,
about that
I want to
one.
leave you with one final question. If your job...
Give me hope. It's like 12 something. Let's see. What time is it? It's like I'm recording videos. It's 12:40 a.m. Okay, I am on the and it's Saturday night, by the way. I'm not going out tonight because I didn't make any plans.
disappeared tomorrow,
Okay.
who would you be? Thank you very much for watching this video. If you
Yeah, I'd
enjoyed
have
this
to
video,
think
you probably
about that
like my
and
video
ponder on that idea a little bit. Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Great video, Cole Hastings. Like and subscribe to him. Tell me what you guys think, and have a nice day.